Hello and welcome back to Pentor Cars, Cornish Car Collectors. Don't worry, you're not seeing double. I am indeed here surrounded by two very rare Rovers. Do you know, here in the UK, you're more likely to spot two Bugattis parked together than you are two Rover 200 VIs as I have here. According to the website How Many Left, which I know lots of people say is inaccurate, but still everyone continues to quote, there are less than 20 of these left on UK roads. And that's from a peak of nearly 3,000 just 23 years ago. Now, the Rover 200 VI was the hot hatch model of the all-new Rover 200 R3 when it was launched back in 1995. Most people have heard of the BRM with its red snout and beautiful red leather interior, but that car didn't go on sale until 1998. So, for the first 3 years of the R3 Rover 200 production, if you wanted the hot hatch version, well, you bought the Rover 200 VI and you wouldn't have been disappointed. This car comes with the 1.8 litre variable valve control K-series petrol engine producing 143 brake horsepower with a 0 to 60 time of 7.5 seconds. The VI received loads of praise from launch, but has gone on to be, well, largely forgotten thanks to the BRM and more latterly the MG ZR160. Now, I love the Rover R3 200 or 25, and in addition to these two VIs, I also have a Rover 25 GTI and an MG ZR160. Also, in the past few years, I've sold a Rover 25 Commerce, which I thought was loads of fun, and, regrettably, my Rover 200 BRM. Just look at the prices of BRMs now. Oh well. Now, the purpose of this video is to share with you something of a dilemma. You see, both of these cars are British Racing Green. Both are 5-door and both have the lovely red-piped half-leather interior. And that's deliberate because I think that to really have one great Rover 200 VI, well, I'm going to have to sacrifice one of these cars as a donor. And to be honest, it is absolutely breaking my heart. So I thought in this video I would share with you the positives and the negatives of each of these cars, the work that's required and the things that really make these cars stand out. Because it's not a straightforward decision and I will show you why. So please do stay tuned for that. And also, if you've got an opinion about which car should be saved and which car should be a donor, or just simply to tell me off with regard to the fact that I'm going to break one of these cars, well, please do leave that in the comments below. And any experience you've got of the Rover 200, Rover 200 VI, or about these cars, I'd love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to click like. It really helps to promote the video. And if you haven't done so already, do subscribe to be notified about updates on these cars and all the other stuff that we feature here on the channel. So let's take a look at these Rover 200 VIs. Let's start off with the 1997 car then, which I've owned for the longest. Now, I bought this car in mid-2020 when we were all in and out of those COVID lockdowns. And I bought the car from Jason, who had listed it on a Rover 225 Facebook group. Jason lives in Evesham in Worcestershire, which is 176 miles from me here in Cornwall. This VI had 4 months MOT when I bought it, which is the UK roadworthiness test and certificate. And it also had some much needed work done on the head gasket. So this felt like a really good buy. And Jason was selling it because he had bought a Rover 200 BRM. Very, very nice. So I drove up to Evesham to collect this car having only done 76,000 miles with loads of service history that came with it. And I drove it home. It drove brilliantly for the first 150 miles and then disaster struck. The car developed a misfire. Now, I managed to get it home, but there is an issue with the cylinder head on this car. It sounds like a stuck valve or something. Here's a bit of footage of the engine running. So I parked the car up in the barn. And it was on returning home that I also learned that this car was subject to an insurance claim and therefore is a Category N, which is non-structural, so not too bad, but a Category N insurance write-off. And that's as a result of some fairly minor accident damage that it incurred in 2018. And this really curbed my enthusiasm for fixing this car up. Now, I came to an arrangement with the seller, so there was no problem there, but I was left with a broken and Category N insurance write-off Rover 200 VI. But there are lots of positives about this car. The mileage is really good, only 76,000 miles, and this car comes with loads of service history. The seats and the general condition of the interior is excellent, albeit the headlining isn't very good. The panels on the car, the doors, they're very straight, the paint's very good, and the bumpers are good. The wheels are in great condition. It has 2 keys and pretty much everything works on this car, with the exception of the clock, which is a common fault on the R3 Rover 200. And this car has a pretty cool registration. Now, outside of the engine and the insurance write-off status of this car, the other areas that are probably against this car are the general condition of the sills and the wheel arches. They do require attention, and I don't think this car will pass an MOT without some work to the rear sills, and to tidy it up we will need to do these arches. Aren't these cars pretty? Anyway, on to this car, the V-Reg, the 1999, which is a really late example of the Rover 200 VI, given that, well, production of these cars had ended by the time that this car was registered. Now, this one was listed by Richard, a fellow Rover enthusiast, who actually listed this car for sale on the same Facebook group as the 1997 car, the Rover 225 Facebook group. Now, Richard originally listed this car as a non-runner, with the car having sat up for a few months. However, with some fresh fuel, he managed to get it started. This car has 7 months MOT on it, and it was in Southampton. But being that it was the same colour and the same 5-door body style as my broken 1997 Rover 200 VI, well, I was straight onto Messenger to Richard and we agreed a deal. Now, Richard had originally listed this car as a project car, so it was my intention that this would be the donor for the other car. And last week I travelled up to Southampton to collect it. It was 159 miles from Cornwall up to Southampton, where I had a lovely chat with Richard, who's got a really nice collection of low mileage, nice rare Rovers. I then drove this car back, and after the first sort of 10 miles, it drove absolutely brilliantly. I think the drive really helped it, as it had been sat up for so long. And it was during the drive home that, well, my dilemma really kicked in. Because you see, this car, it's too good to be a donor. So at the moment, I really don't know which car to break and which car to restore. So what are the good points about this car? Well, again, it has an excellent service history. This really is a 2-owner car from new. It's in better condition, with the sills and arches being really good. Also, the boot hinges are excellent, and this is a common area for rust on the R3 Rover 200s. This car also has the rare option of air conditioning, which really stands it apart from many of the VIs that are still out there, and a working clock. And as I've already said, for those of you who know the Rover 200s, Rover 25s, MG ZRs, then you'll know that a working clock is a real rarity. So they're the good points about this car. What are the not quite so good points? Well, this car's done 109,000 miles, so a lot more miles than the 1997 car on 76,000 miles. That's something to consider. This car has an oil leak on the front of the engine, which will need to be sorted, as you can smell the oil burning off when the engine warms up. The bumpers on this car really do need attention. That front bumper is terrible. And also the wheels on this car aren't in the best of condition, but it does have good tyres. The passenger electric window doesn't work, so we'll need to sort that out, and the interior on this car is quite worn. The door card material, in fact, is missing from this car, but it does have a better headlining. Do you know, having the cars parked together is brilliant, because you start to see some of the subtle differences between the later car and the early car. Sure, this one has air conditioning, which was probably an option on this earlier car, but there are other differences, like this one has a set of mud flaps, this one doesn't. This car has a chrome rear boot grab handle, whereas this one has a black plastic trim handle. Subtle differences like that really do excite a Rover nerd like me. The other benefit of getting these cars together is that you can see that they're actually a slightly different shade of British racing green. The paint code on the earlier car, the 97, HAM. The paint code on the later car, HFF. Anyway, the big question remains. which of these cars to restore and which of these cars to use as a bit of a donor. Now, do we restore the early car, which has got less miles, 76,000 miles, nice service history, it's got the cleaner interior, but it is a category N insurance write-off, and it does have some more work to do around the sills and the arches than this one, but it's got nicer bumpers. Or do we restore the later car? Sure, it has air conditioning, it's got a working clock, let's not forget that, but it does require some body work, and it is higher miles on this car. So there's a decision to be taken here, and I really don't know which way I'm going, albeit I think I'm leaning towards restoring this car at the moment. Now, I think the next thing for me to do really is to take this car home and give it a damn good clean, because it's been sat up all of the winter. It's absolutely filthy. Let's see what's underneath all this grime and give this car a decent polish before we make a decision. So I'm going to take this one home, I'm going to give it a clean on the outside and inside because it really stinks in there, and then I'll come back in a future video and let you know my decision. If you've got an opinion on this, please do let me know in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you, great to hear what you think I should do, or just tell me off about the fact that I'm even thinking about breaking one of these lovely cars. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click like on the video, it really helps to promote this and the channel, and do hit subscribe to follow this journey with the 200 VIs and to see everything else that you share here at Pentor Cars Cornish Car Collectors. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye for now. Bye bye.